I encourage everyone to take a moment and breathe and take a tea cheers with a Jiri tea. A Jiri tea recognizes the beauty in shared stories and shared opportunities. Ajiri sources award-winning tea from Kenya, employs women in the region to handcraft the labels, and sends 100% of the profits back to the region to support orphan education. Save 10% on your order of Kenyan teas and coffee with the code BeautifullyHuman at ajiritea.com. AJIRIT.com. Tea mugs up. Hello, and welcome to the Beautifully Human podcast. I'm Nick Sheesby. In this podcast, I speak with beautiful humans from all around the world, sharing with you their incredible stories, revealing the power in every human story, to spread love and humanity to a world that is in desperate need of it, to show that we can all connect in beautiful ways no matter where we come from or what we look like. What you will find out is that we are all beautifully human. Let's all be beautifully human. Here we are again, another episode of the Beautifully Human podcast. I'm Nick Sheesby. Today I'm hanging out with Madison Thorn. We hear all about her life and this really unbelievably cool project that she's working on that I've been following for a very long time, and I'm excited to share it with you and spread it around. Such important work that she's doing. What an amazing human. Enjoy. And as always, if you enjoy this podcast, give us a follow on Spotify and go to Apple Podcasts and rate and review. Those things do help. And follow us on Instagram at the Beautifully Human podcast. And most of all, as always, enjoy this beautiful episode with this beautiful human. So my question on the big, broad spectrum of it all, tell me about your life. Tell me about you.
Oh my gosh. Like you want to sum up the past 30 years? All right, man, let's go. Hit
Yeah, let's do it.
Strong right off the bat. I can sum up my existence pretty easily. I'm a third generation photographer. So I say I was born a photographer and raised as a musician. I grew up in St. Louis and started running around the music scene there pretty early, and grew up in it, loved it, everything about it. And then I just started taking my camera to gigs. And next thing you know, I'm a concert photographer. And let's see, I've lost track of all time. In October of 2019, I moved to Nashville to further that concert photography career.
That is awesome. Mm-hmm. I do concert photography as well, and it was funny because the way I learned, I used to do videography more, and then because I had a camera, someone thought I could do photography, and they said, "Hey, could you take photos of the show?" And I said, "I mean, I can try, but you'd have to give me a camera." And so like they lent me a camera to take photos, and so that's the way I learned, was just like, all right, go for it.
Nice. Yeah.
So how young were you when you started shooting?
I think I got my first, it was a film camera. I think I was gifted it at like 13, 14, something like that. But like I said, photography's kind of been the running trend my whole life, just because my mother and grandmother were both photographers.
That's so awesome. I'm always kind of jealous because I started so late and so abruptly. I didn't even think of it as something that I would be doing. So I didn't learn like why a camera works as a camera. I didn't, I just was handed it, and then I shot everything on automatic, and my buddy was like, "Nope, that's no good. Those pictures aren't worth a shit. Learn your camera if you're gonna shoot." Yeah. Learn how to shoot manual. And so I started to learn. So I didn't do any film either. So I'm always, I'm always like, and I know I could go back and learn. I just have not taken the time. But I think that's so rad that you started off with film.
Yeah, it's well, the cool thing about like automatic cameras these days is it allows for people to more easily fall in love with photography. Like in the film days, if you didn't get it, you didn't get it. And it was difficult to understand. So not everyone got into photography, but nowadays it's like if you see something, it's pretty easy to take a picture of it. And I think it makes it more accessible to people.
Yeah, definitely. And yeah, I like how you said that because I loved doing video work. So it was like, point and follow and you get what you get.
Hmm.
And then the challenge that I loved about photography was like, if you didn't get that person jumping right at that right moment or that like
Yeah,
whatever movement they were doing, if you didn't capture that like perfect, it was
it's
gone.
gone.
Video,
Yeah.
you can like capture wide angle of everything and you're good. But
Mhm.
photography, it was those little moments. So
Yes.
I thought that was super cool.
Yes. And either you catch the moments or you don't. But as you grow as a photographer, I like to think that you're a little better at guessing those moments. Even as a musician, like I can see a look in a musician's eye. I can recognize it like, oh, you're gonna do something. I better get ready.
Yeah, yeah, that's so funny. I also got to do pretty well at like clicking on the drum beat because
Yes.
things usually happen
Yes.
well on a drum
Yeah.
beat. So that was one of my little tricks. I'd be following that and keeping up with it.
Or if you understand chord progressions, if you're gonna go back, it's a big deal to go from the 5 back to the 1. So if you're like hearing that, you're like, oh wait, we're gonna drop it, and yeah, there you go.
Ah, see, I like that. I like these little tricks. Now we're turning into like a photography help session
Right, but
too.
don't give all the tricks away.
No, I mean most people are just. It's weird to me when I see people in the photo pit with iPhones now, which I do understand that their phones are really
Yes.
fantastic and the cameras are amazing, but it's very odd to me to see someone just like,
Yeah, I understand the silliness of, myself wanting to be a professional photographer when everyone has a camera in their pocket. Yeah, no, I was just
yeah,
commenting that it makes it more accessible, but it also kind of floods the field.
yeah, that is true. Um, yeah, it is very strange with with that. Um, so what was the first show that you shot?
Oh gosh. I think one of the first bands I remember taking, or one of the first shows I remember taking a camera to was the St. Louis band called Mama's Pride, and they did the show out in the middle of nowhere, Missouri, in an old hotel. And it was a very intimate setting. And I was just there because I was a fan of theirs. And I just happened to have my camera with me. And I just kind of took a couple. I probably took 500 shots that night, and 2 turned out. But those 2 were enough to be like, oh, this is kind of, I could do something with this.
Yeah. That I was actually funny enough. I was going to say that of like every show I've shot photos at, I take probably 600
Yeah.
pictures, and there's, I mean, hopefully 10.
Yes.
That's
Yeah.
a really good, like, man, I hope I got 10 that are pretty good
Yes.
out of all that.
Very early on in my, I guess you could call it a career, I had a friend, a professional photographer friend, say, try and narrow down that ratio. Be very intent with what images you take, and it kind of goes back to thinking to the film days. You only had 24 shots on a roll, so you had to be very focused. Focused, get it? That's a photography joke. You had to be very intentional with what you decided to capture.
Yeah, see, I didn't have those. I mean, the closest thing I had to that was like the point and then
Yeah.
those kind of, but I don't, that was the closest I had to anything film
Right.
related. And I can imagine like the frustration of waiting till you got everything developed. I can't, like, that makes that just like, because everything's so instantaneous now, like
Yes.
boom, as you're shooting you can hit play,
Yeah.
see it. So
Instant gratification takes too long these days.
yeah. And I mean, I just, some of my favorite photos are like of the classic rock where
Yeah.
it's like, I mean, there's one I love of Jimi Hendrix. He's got his back to the crowd and he's got his peace signs up,
Nice.
and like the crowd is just like mesmerized, and
Hmm.
he's barely looking at them. But there's also one of the Who where he Roger Daltrey's throwing his guitar, and like the capture is
Yeah.
perfect. Like the guitar is mid-flight, everyone in the front row is like losing their shit, like going bonkers. And
Hmm.
it was the I was like, dude, that guy was just like, oh my god, I better please, 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 please let me get that,
Yes.
because you don't get to look and
Right.
like, oh wait, I'll take 20 versions of it, and it's
Hmm.
like as you're editing, you just see the guitar go in like
Yeah.
this. You'd have to just wait to hope that you got it.
Yeah. Cross your fingers. It's even more terrifying when you develop your own film. That's
Ooh,
what I was
yeah.
doing in high school. You take a film class and then you develop your own film. Well, I was terrified that I was going to screw everything up. So that just adds to the stress level of the entire situation.
Yeah, I can imagine. So that was another part of photography that I always thought would be cool to learn
Hmm.
that I still haven't. But um so do you still mess with film and darkroom stuff?
No, I've kind of been tossing around the idea of getting back into it. It's such a learning curve. It's kind of daunting in a lot of ways, but there is a local dark room in town that I could theoretically sign up for and be a part of, but I'm kind of scared. Not gonna lie to you. Don't tell anybody, but I'm a little bit of a chicken
I
shit.
will.
So thanks.
Yeah. I mean, I remember a friend of mine. I used to live in Atlanta, and I had a friend who was a photographer, and she wanted to learn, so she started taking those darkroom classes. And I mean, she would get so frustrated, and it just kind of made me nervous because she was a really good photographer and she was
Hmm.
quite brilliant. And then like she went to these classes and was like, "Fuck this, man! This is really obnoxious and it's
Yeah.
really scary."
Yes, I have so much. There's a photographer, a concert photographer in Denver named Lisa Siciliano, and she still does film for her concert photography, and it
Wow.
is stunning. It is absolutely stunning. And so she has these wonderful images that she's come back with, but then you throw in the fact that it's film, and it adds to the level of talent that goes into creating that image. I mean, she develops all her own film. She's a force. So anyone that's still dealing with film, they have all of my respect.
Yeah, wow. I'm just thinking of that. Like, yeah, I can't even imagine these days doing that. So do you tour with bands doing that, or are you typically localized?
Typically localized. I would love to jump on the road with a band, and kind of when moving to Nashville, that was my thought: is get on a van, get on a bus, get in a van, and go. And I was starting to build stuff up and making the right connections and whatnot, and then pandemic. So
Yeah, it was definitely a switch when that came on. I mean, I've toured in the music industry for 15
mhm.
years. I'd still include last year, even though it wasn't a touring year. But yeah, I was gonna say that was a tough time to get here and then like start building, and then it's like, oh, damn it,
Yeah,
we're all
yeah,
off.
I was here for a year and like 3 months. So I had gotten to do the Ryman and fun stuff like that. Just making, I was doing the right things theoretically
Yeah,
in building up to that the big break, if you will, and then it all stopped.
man, that's an iconic one to get to shoot at the Ryman. I've done shows at the Ryman. I've never shot at the Ryman, which would be super rad.
It was uh I sometimes don't have words for how beautiful it was. A friend of mine is the bass player for the Beach Boys, and he
Nice.
texted me on a Wednesday. He's like, "Hey, we're playing the Ryman, and John Stamos needs a photographer. Can you be here in like 2 hours?" Yes. I had only been in Nashville for a month, and that's exactly the phone call you wait for.
Yes. Yeah.
So I got there. I walked in the stage entrance, and they had just gotten done with sound check, and the band had cleared off to go get dinner. And my buddy walked over, got me, and so when we walked across the Ryman stage, it was completely empty. and it was just me and my buddy. And I got to the center of the stage, and I was like, I need a minute. And I swear to you, I kid you not, that stage vibrated. It
Yeah.
was a magical moment.
I mean, I remember the first time walking across it. It was before a load in for the show that I did.
Mhm.
Yeah, it was just like, it just feel. I mean, there's just such amazing energy in that room,
It's
and just thinking all the people that have stood on that stage, just like, holy shit,
yeah,
man, it's
it was
wild.
absolutely amazing. I was so thrilled to be a part of that.
Yeah, and what a cool one too to do that at the Ryman with the Beach
Yeah,
Boys.
and the
I
Beach Boys and John Stamos.
right, Uncle Jesse rocking with the Beach
Yeah,
Boys.
yeah, that was actually my. I'd never seen neither the Love Camp or the Brian Wilson Camp live, so being able to see the Beach Boys live was pretty outstanding. But then the first conversation I had with John Stamos is had ducked behind. I was on stage behind the drum risers in the middle of the show, and I was capturing the two drummers, which is John Stamos and their the Beach Boys drummer. And John Stamos gets done with the song and he hops down next to me. So we're both like crouched behind the drum risers at the Ryman. The Beach Boys are playing, and John Stamos was like, "Hey, so do you have a business card? How can I get these photos from you?" I'm like, "Yes, John Stamos. Let me. Holy crap! Give me a second to get my bearings." And yes, you can have my business card.
Yeah, let me breathe for a second
Yeah,
and just.
that's kind of the
That's
that's kind of
amazing.
the beauty of Nashville, though. I think is weird stuff, weird, beautiful stuff like that happens all the time.
That is true. Yeah, it is one of those cities where you just like go into a coffee shop and someone's sitting there and it's like, oh, okay,
Yeah.
cool. But man, what a cool experience to be at the
Oh,
Ryman and then have that moment.
uh,
I mean,
it's so cool. I'm not gonna lie to you, man. It was really cool.
that's so
Yeah.
incredible. So when the pandemic hit and all that went away, was that when you started doing the high risk humans?
Yes. So the pandemic started up in March. I lost my job. I lost my career. We all lost everything. I mean, everything
Yeah.
stopped. And so I honestly don't remember much of March and April. And it's not like because I was binge drinking or anything. It's just like all the days they all wrapped into each other. Right, the beginning and end were all the same. Didn't Nothing happened. Um,
Right.
and so on top of like losing everything, I'm in the high risk category as a type 1 diabetic, which is an autoimmune disease. So lost everything, terrified of catching this, coronavirus and then potentially dying. And then John Prine died. That was the
Yeah.
second week of April. That was devastating. I love John Prine so much, and he was gone. So I was at what I thought was my ultimate low. And then when the protesters for reopening businesses in Tennessee happened, someone wrote on a sign, "Sacrifice the weak." And that refers to myself, in the high risk category. It refers to so many people. And that absolutely knocked me out. I stayed in bed for 2 or 3 days. I was just so devastated by someone, a stranger, a total stranger, claiming to know my life, what my life is worth, and then saying it's not worth anything. So on the third day, I was still lying in bed, and I thought, you know what? I want to show who they're referring to when they say, quote, "the weak." And so I texted a
Yeah.
couple buddies of mine that are also in the high risk category, and I said, I don't really know what I want to do here other than I want to photograph the high risk. Are you in? And they all texted me back within 30 seconds and said, absolutely. So it kind of naturally developed. I not only took their pictures, I interviewed them. And so on the website right now, you see the faces and you can read the stories of many, many folks in Nashville that are high risk.
Yeah, I remember. I don't know how I was turned on to it, but somebody showed it to me and I was just like, oh my God, this is the coolest. Because I'm part of the high risk as
Hmm.
well, because I have cirrhosis of the liver.
Hmm.
I did that to myself, but that still puts me in a
Sure.
category of high risk. And so um yeah, I was seeing a lot of that too. I didn't see that sign of sacrifice the weak, but I that's just the mentality of like, you know, yeah, get rid of, like, if you can't handle it, get out of here,
Yeah.
move out of the way. We're the strong Americans, we'll be good. And yeah, I have a lot of that coming from my hometown. I grew up in
Oof.
Ohio, and it's just a very very closed-minded place, and there was just a lot of shit coming out of just every which way towards it. And then I kept seeing it. Then I started sharing it every week because I was
Yes.
just like,
Yes. Thank
I
you for that.
loved,
Thank you.
oh man, it was just brilliant. It was exactly like what I was wanting to see.
Hmm.
Of like, I was trying to put this out of like, you might look at me and think he's a very healthy human.
Right.
Same with you.
Exactly.
But you have no idea. I don't have any idea what any person in this world has going on inside of them. They
Absolutely.
could, again, look like the healthiest person, and then like, I don't want to put that on them, So I was like, I was trying to figure out a way to show that to people. And then high risk humans came along, and I was like, oh, this is amazing, because it was so beautiful of like, here are these humans
Mhm.
that are our parents, our friends, our daughters, sons, and they're high risk.
Mhm.
And so when you don't give a shit, this is who you're putting at a higher risk.
Right.
So I thank you for putting it out, because it was since the first time I saw it, it's been brilliant every time. I've been in tears many times.
Oh, oh
Like,
man.
just reading these
Yeah.
stories are so touching. It's beautiful. It's truly
Well,
incredible.
thank you. I appreciate that. And like I said, it kind of naturally developed in its own course. I started off very angry. We were just talking about the sacrifice the weak thing. I was very angry. And originally, I thought when I would do these portraits, I would have people flipping off the camera. Um, I quickly threw that idea away to say, well, okay, no, no, no. There's enough hatred in the world. I don't need to inspire hate. And then
Right.
I interviewed Megan, and she used the word empathy, and she must have been maybe my fourth interview. She used the word empathy, and I'll never forget it because I went, oh, that's what I want to inspire. That's the path I would like to take with this series. And honestly, the people I've talked to did that in and of themselves, because everyone's um, had such compassionate hearts. And it's, yes, we're all kind of pissed off about the sacrifice the weed thing, but we're also,
Right.
the majority of us are also saying, hey, let's just take care of each other. Let's look out for our neighbors. Let's be kind right now. Um,
Yeah, I just I love that too. Yeah, I was thinking when you said that, I was like, yeah, big old one of these would be
right.
perfect,
Yeah.
because like, you know, but I do understand of like asking for empathy towards ourselves, but also doing,
Yeah.
middle fingers up.
Right.
Kind of, it's, you don't really get the same like, oh wow, I should think about this, if you're just looking, because I know people in my life, if they saw that, they wouldn't even bother reading.
Right.
They would just see someone flipping off
Right.
the camera and mind blank, gone, not even
Right.
scroll past it, like wouldn't give it the time of
Right.
day. So I completely
Yeah.
understand that.
Anger and hate beget anger and hate. So,
Yeah.
um, I like I said, I quickly dismissed that idea and started to strive to capture smiles and um, just the humanity of the whole thing. Because if like if you look at the website, there's Mark, and he's holding his little girl, and I think she's 3, and they're adorable, and they're just like spinning around and having a great time. And it's like, how can you look at that and like be angry? How it's the
Right.
cutest photo in the world. It should make you happy, man. It should inspire goodness. It should inspire empathy.
Yes. I mean, they're brilliant photos. Like, they I think portrait photography is just so tough to capture Like when you can capture that, like just like you said, that beauty, they're just really stunning
Well, thank
photos.
you.
Like I commend you for the whole the whole project, but I mean to the base, like the photos are incredible,
Thank you.
and they should inspire that in people. Like I've had people, just to push it back to you,
Yeah.
swing it around. I started sharing those, and a couple friends that don't live in my hometown anymore, but are from there, who are kind of on the spectrum of like, let's get some beauty back into the world, and stop like spewing out
Mm-hmm.
all this craziness. I did get a couple comments where it was just like, this is the only thing I want to see on my timeline. This. And I was like, here it
uh,
is. Go follow it, share it, send it around, like spread it around. It cannot get spread far enough. Like, so there were a lot of people that were feeling that,
that's
so
amazing. It's yeah, I've had people from all over, not just necessarily Nashville, but people from all over reach out and say thank you for this. The high risk, we've been largely quarantined for almost a year now. And I remember, gosh, over the summer when I was doing, 2 interviews a day and really, really hitting it hard, I was largely the first person that these high riskers had seen outside of their own home in months. And so for somebody to come along and ask to take their picture and ask them their story, these people who had been isolated are suddenly being seen and heard. And I was not expecting that when I started this series, but I think it means so much to people to be acknowledged right now. Listening to someone's story right now is an act of kindness in many ways. So I've
yeah.
loved doing that.
Well, yeah, I mean, in a time where there's so much going on and so much hatred swirling around,
Mm-hmm.
like it is tough. And like on top of all that, we are locked down, we are in a pandemic, and again, we're in the high risk. And so, yeah, I mean, in those categories, being seen and heard is so
Mm-hmm.
important. And then like giving someone that space of just tell your story
Yes.
is, I mean, doing this podcast has been beautiful for that. It's been
Mm-hmm.
so nice to just be
Excellent.
like, tell your story, let's chat,
Yeah.
what do you want to talk about,
Just speak whatever you got to say, man. I'm here to listen.
yeah. Yeah, and
Exactly.
then we'll follow it down the river, and we'll just chat along the way. And yeah, like, my journey was with sobriety, and that's why, I put me in a high risk category. And so I've like, it just meant so much to me, the first few people that saw me as human again.
Yeah.
It wasn't like, ooh, Nick's that extreme alcoholic, Nick's, he's almost dead, he's still fully jaundiced. The first person that was just like, hey, I don't know anything about drinking. I've never drank in my life. I don't know anything about having to get sober,
Mm-hmm.
but I know you got to get healthy. And so she let me come to the gym in my hometown when I was there, and gave me a membership. And she just saw me, and then she would just talk, and she would just listen
Yeah.
to what I had to say, and literally had no context at all on it. And I was like, it was so amazing just chatting with
Yeah.
you. I'd known her a very long time, but like, yeah, just being seen as human is like,
Mm-hmm.
I have a story and it's powerful,
Yes.
and then being able to share that, especially in these times, has been incredible.
I think we forget how powerful empathy is, but this friend of yours being empathetic to your story changed your whole life.
Yeah,
You can change the world
100%.
with empathy. I've said it from the beginning
Yeah.
of the series, and I'll say it as long as I have breath. Empathy is a beautiful thing.
Yeah. Yeah. I've always said like, kindness is far easier than hatred
Oh
too.
yeah,
It's like you have to work on what you hate about somebody. You have
right.
to actively go and look at that person and say, all right, Madison, what do I got? What do you got that I don't like? That's
Yeah,
quite a lot to do.
I mean, I'm sure it wouldn't be that hard with me. You could certainly find something. I don't know, dig through my album collection, find something you don't like. But
Sure.
yeah, it's it's lighter. Like it's physically lighter to be kind to someone. Anger and hate weigh you down, and I don't have time for that.
Yeah. No, I got there's too much other
Yeah.
stuff going on in the world to be weighed down by that shit. I don't want it. It doesn't feel good. It's
Right.
terrible.
Yeah.
All right. So I'm gonna switch gears just a tiny bit.
Yeah, man.
Well, a little bit, whatever.
Whatever.
Yeah. All kinds of bits. So in your travels in your life, what's your favorite place you've been so far?
Oh crap, man.
Yeah, keeping you on your toes.
I honestly haven't been that many places. I mean, as far as like cities, I've only traveled out of the country once. So you say what are your favorite places, and I think of like the dive bars in St. Louis or in Nashville, and not necessarily for the drinking at 3 a.m., but the people you find there. Just the anywhere you can find the crux of humanity, I'm a fan of it.
Yeah.
As far as bars in Nashville, I almost said St. Louis. As far as bars in Nashville, anything on the east side, and I'm not knocking any other bars, but I feel like in East Nashville, you could pretty much walk into anyone, and it's its own little family. It's its own little community. You have the regulars, you have the great bartenders, sometimes you have a jukebox even.
Yeah, I do love that. I do love that here. 3 for a loop on that one. That's great. So on that note, here I'll go with this one then.
Thank you.
If obviously, COVID restrictions and everything aside, if I came to you and I had a plane ticket and I said, Madison, here's a plane ticket to anywhere in the world. You get to pick the place. I get to be Oprah for a second. Where would you go?
You get a plane ticket. You get a plane.
You get a plane ticket. Yeah.
I'm a huge foodie. I love food and I love good food. And I think going to somewhere like Italy or Spain, just for the sake of the meals you could have would be, it'd be so nice.
Yeah, I haven't been to Italy yet, but I've been to Spain and the food was just bonkers over there. What are some of your favorite foods? My
favorite food is the simpler it is with the best ingredients, I think make for the best dishes. So even tacos, tacos really only have 3 or 4 ingredients, including the tortilla shell. So if you are taking those 3 or 4 ingredients and doing the absolute best that you can with them, then you're going to have a great product. You're going to have a great time.
I mean, tacos are a great time pretty much any time.
Yes.
I can't say I don't think I've had a bad taco experience, because I probably have, but I mean, I'm pretty pro taco anytime.
Yes, agreed.
I actually had one right before I talked to you.
Good on you. Nice.
And it was just avocado, cheese, and hot sauce.
See?
Not bad.
Right?
It works. It works. Yeah, I like to ask that one because it's so intriguing to hear people's thoughts on where they want to go and where they travel, because bringing it back around, I think a lot of people struggle in this country because they haven't had to go see other places or experience other cultures, or feel like mini in life. They get this big attitude over here, and I feel like when you start to go places where you're uncomfortable, then you start to be like, oh, okay,
yes,
I get it. Where was the place you went outside of the country?
Toronto. I mean, I guess it's.
Hey, Toronto. Give it to them, because
no.
I love Toronto.
No, Toronto's great. It's not like I went to Antarctica or something. I just went, a little farther up north.
Yeah. Toronto's a really cool city. The food up there is incredible.
Yeah. Going back.
Jump in.
Going back to what you were saying about, traveling expands our minds and whatnot. It's been brought up a couple different times in this series that these people that say sacrifice the weak have probably never had to deal with hardship in the physical sense. Like, um, they say sacrifice the weak. Me personally, I fight a battle every day with my type 1 diabetes. I have to make the decision every single day to not only live but live well. My sugar lows can kill me, my sugar highs can kill me. Always in the back of my head is the fact that I'm a type 1 diabetic. And that doesn't make me weak. For them to call me weak is ridiculous. I fight all
Right.
day, every day. And so I definitely wanted to try and change that narrative that those with autoimmune diseases or whatever classifies you as high risk, you're a warrior. You have to be
Yeah.
respected for whatever diagnosis you've gotten and for you to choose to continue to live your life and to do well. Everyone should be um, given props for that,
Yeah, 100%. I mean, like, yeah, I mean, even like mine was self-inflicted, but also the journey of sobriety
Yes,
is a day-to-day battle,
yes.
So it's like if you're including people that are trying to get sober that have fucked up their
Mm-hmm.
livers in that, or yeah, I just, that attitude is just, I don't comprehend it.
Yes.
I really struggle to sit there and think that I'm ever better than anybody, or that I'm stronger than somebody
Mm-hmm.
because I'm healthy. Like, you're probably not that healthy. You just don't know.
Yeah,
Also,
everyone, what's wild is everyone is one diagnosis away from being high risk. Just this,
right.
you are, everyone is just a very fine, uh, it's, you are closer to being high risk than you could ever imagine.
Yeah. And it's really frustrating, like when the whole hydroxychloroquine thing
Oh
was
God.
happening. Yeah, I know. My one of my cousins, who is like the sweetest woman in the world, she has lupus, and that's one of the medications. And
Oh
she was supposed
no.
to start into that medication. She was trying to do it all natural and not go on medications. And then finally it was like, I kind of need to do this
Mm-hmm.
to live, right? And then because it was being so
There's a
broadcasted,
shortage. Oh.
there was a shortage
Ah.
for her. So she actually had some, but she had a friend who'd been on it for a very, very long time and couldn't get any new
Mm-hmm.
amount of it. So she actually didn't go on it and sent it to her friend
Wow.
so she could use it because she had been on it.
Mm-hmm.
And so she delayed jumping on this thing. And I'm like, there's real consequences
Yes.
for these things. Like, it's not just like, oh, this is funny, like try this hydroxychloroquine, blah. It's like, no, there's real people that are truly affected by this.
Wow.
Like, you can't, like, just joking with this is it's people's lives,
Yes.
and these people, like you said, that like these people sacrifice the week,
Mm-hmm.
or not wearing masks, and they're like, well, I made it through. And I'm like, yeah, there will be people that make it through
Mm-hmm.
this thing without it.
Yeah.
But you've also shown your ass to say, like, you just don't care
Yeah.
about anybody else besides
Yeah.
yourself,
It,
or even yourself, really.
yeah. It's mind-boggling to me. Props to your cousin. I don't know her, but I love her. That's an incredibly selfless and wonderful thing to do.
Yeah, like I said, she's the sweetest
Mm-hmm.
woman. And I mean, she's literally messaged me every single month of my sobriety on the day, which is
Yeah.
just unreal
That's
to have that, that commitment
excellent.
to me,
Yeah.
and pumping me up, so yeah, it's hard to sit and hear those kind of things come out of so many people.
Mm-hmm.
And so I just think it's so brilliant, the high risk humans. And like, so I called mine Beautifully Human. I started it off as a blog in a similar way of just asking people their stories, because I shared my
Mm-hmm.
story, and I had a really powerful response from a good friend of mine. And then I was just like, there is so much power. Like it doesn't matter who you are. There's power in your story,
Yes.
you know.
Yes, there's absolutely yes.
And people will relate to you.
Hmm.
Like even if it's one person, like that is monstrous, you
Yes.
know, like the ripple effect, because then you affect that person or they relate with you and then they hear, you know,
Yes.
it's just really beautiful to be able to help people get those words out,
Yes.
you know.
I, when I was still lying in bed, not knowing what I wanted this series to do, I definitely did not think that this would be a platform for people. But it's become that, and it's so beautiful. Like my buddy Stuffy, who's in the series, he is open about his struggle with mental illness. It's right on his artist blog that he's bipolar, and he didn't. I was like, hey, I don't ask people to be a part of the series. It's none of my business whether or not you want to share your story. Um, if you you have to come to me, right? Your medical history is not
Yeah.
my business. But I did ask Stuffy, and I was like, hey man, everyone's struggling right now, whether you're high risk or not, with mental health. And maybe if you share your story with me and we kind of talk about that a little bit and we're a little honest about it, maybe it could help some people. And his story, I think more so than anyone else, I had more people texting me, messaging me saying thank you. Um, Everyone's struggling with mental health, and for Stuffy to be brave enough to stand up and say this is what I struggle with, it helps everybody.
Yeah.
So many people identified with his story. Just pretty proud of him.
Yeah, and I mean, I'm still harping on, I still like that just plays in my mind of like the week, and I'm sitting
Yeah.
there as you're telling that story and I'm like, that is the most powerful gift you can give to anybody, is sharing your
Yep.
story and saying this is what I struggle with, like the strength that
Mm-hmm.
takes.
I was talking with a buddy of mine, and he kind of alluded to the fact that he was high risk. And I said, I'll talk to you if you want. And he goes, it's high risk to say you're high risk. Whoa, it kind of
Mm,
is. It is a little risky to put yourself out there and say, this is my um, disability, autoimmune disease. This is my, for lack of a better word, ailment. This is,
right.
um, and so I think that makes me think more of everybody that's talked to me. It's shown their bravery and their courage and their strength.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't know. I as I open up more and more and I get to have these amazing experiences where I get to just learn about your story and your passions and all these other amazing people that I'm speaking with, it just makes me really appreciate the connection you can find with somebody after 50 minutes, you
Yes.
know, like, and truly listening and like truly being vulnerable and open. It's really beautiful. And again, just like there's no weakness in that.
No.
I know a lot of people that I've known for a very, very long time that my relationship is barely underwater
Mm-hmm.
with them. You know, there's literally no depth to it because they're, you know, and I think a lot of people struggle with being super vulnerable, but you know, there's just so much strength and beauty when you can get to that with anybody.
Absolutely. One of the wild aspects of this series for me is that I largely in part I don't know the people I'm interviewing. They'll go to the website and there's a very simple form, name, contact info. What makes you high risk? In parentheses, please only share what you're comfortable with. How'd you find out about the series? That's it. That's pretty much it. And so I don't know what these people look like. I don't know where they live, what their house looks like. I don't know. I know so little about them. And then I know the stories on the website are very short, uh, but I talked to people for an hour or two. And the interesting thing I think is that we're talking about their medical issues. So their daily struggles. And then we're talking about it in the context of a pandemic, something that's incredibly difficult. So I walk away from these 1 or 2 hour conversations and I feel like I know this person. Like I know them very well. I still keep in touch with most of the people I've interviewed. And that's amazing. I have all of these new friends and it's so cool.
Yeah. I feel the same when I do these. By the end of an hour or however long we end up talking, it's just like I feel like I really get to know people.
Yes.
And I feel like I'm just like, oh cool, I got a new friend.
Right.
I got somebody I can chat with,
And
and learn more and more about.
and you and I were mostly just listening when we do our interviews.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. And that's the fun part. Like I've gone on to other people's and told my story, and it's like it's good to do that as well every once in a while, like you're getting to do today. Like I've done it like twice now, and I was like, oh, okay, cool. It like to get to feel the momentum and the power that you get to feel when you can be open.
Yes.
Is really nice as well. And I love listening. I love just giving the floor and saying, let's chat.
Yeah, it is kind of a mind flip though for somebody to say, all right, now you have the floor, you talk. Well,
Yeah. It's on you, Madison.
Dang it. Okay, let's go. But I think it's really easy for me to brag about this series because it's not just my story. Sure, it's my photos, but it's the faces and the stories of all these different people.
Yeah. Same. I was speaking with someone the other day, and I was like, I really want this podcast to do incredibly well, more so than anything because of everyone I'm chatting with.
Yeah.
I want their stories to spread to the ends of the earth.
Yes.
I get so excited when I see new analytics on my site that I put it up, and it's like a new country, and I'm like,
nice.
I don't know which one you listen to, but someone out there heard this story in Sri Lanka. That's amazing.
That's excellent. Yes, that's
it's super cool.
Yeah.
So if it's 10 words of mine, fine. They get to hear my voice very quickly, and then everybody else has the floor.
Right. We're going back to wanting to give folks a platform in which they can speak. It's pretty awesome.
Yeah. Yeah, and like I said, yours is it's so beautiful. So I was super stoked when I sent you a message and you were like, yeah, let's do this thing. I was like,
woo,
awesome.
Yeah, man.
I'm very excited.
And so you've been following the series for so long, and I am so appreciative of that support. So it's nice to be able to finally get to chat with you as well.
Yeah. And like I said, I forget, it must have been someone in we have a group chat with a ton of us that all live throughout Nashville. And I'm pretty sure it came through in one of those. And I just immediately was like, this is every single thing that comes out, High Risk Human, I am in, and I'm spreading it around.
It's excellent. I think it was, if I had to guess, it was right around the time that Channel 5 aired that news story. Does that sound about right?
Probably. Yeah, probably. And I just saw, what was it with the East Nashville?
Yeah, man.
Villain or whatever. I don't know how you say
the
it.
East Nashvilleian. They were kind enough to include, it's my name, whatever. It's their artist and profile slot. So it says artist and profile, Madison Thorn, but then the article and the 3 pages are in bulk, the series. It is super cool. If you're in Nashville, you can pick up a copy of it, and it's got some kind of like behind the scenes info that hasn't really been posted anywhere else yet. So it's kind of nifty.
That's so
it's so cool.
I didn't even know you, but I was so excited when I saw it. I was like, yes, this is brilliant. Just people's stories, and this power is going out to the world, and people are respecting it and showing it, the respect it deserves. So
thank you.
I was super pumped for you. So I'm glad to be able to tell you it to your
virtual face. Yeah, no, I appreciate that. It's been, I've only been in this town 2 years, but I got nominated for East Nashvilleian of the Year. That's wild. That's absolutely wild. Crazy. And it's because of this series, which was born out of the darkest place I've experienced in so long. I was just talking the other day about silver linings during this whole, and they're so hard to find, but when you find them, man, they can be pretty beautiful.
Yeah, and I mean, I love that.
Hmm.
Your darkest place, you're in bed for 3 days, and you're like, "What am I going to do?"
Yeah,
And then this came out of it.
it's
It's so
it's
brilliant.
it's it's baffling to me at times, honestly. I have a terrible memory, but I can still picture laying in bed and kind of like the wisps of the idea kind of passing through my brain. And now, I mean, look at us now. Come on. It's
Yeah,
wild. It's so
it's
cool.
so good.
Yeah.
And I mean, it just shows the heart that
Hmm.
you have of like, okay, how can I get out of this shitty, just get out of this hole that I'm in with, seeing this.
Yeah.
And the way you went about it was not to say, I'm going to lift myself up by talking about me.
Hmm.
I'm going to go out and use my photography skills, and I'm just going to show these people the week, I'm going to show the week.
Hmm. Yeah.
And
I want
then
you to
all of this has come from it.
Yeah, I wanted people to know who they're referring to when they say the weak. I
Yeah.
think the people who say that so cavalierly, is cavalierly a word? With such cavalier, is that the okay, so
um,
the people who say sacrifice their weak with such disregard for who that entails, I think in their head that means the elderly, which the elderly shouldn't be sacrificed anyway. There's no reason that
right.
you should throw Grandma June under the bus for this.
Right.
But
Yeah.
the youngest person I've interviewed is 8, named Sean.
Hmm.
Sean is awesome. I encourage everyone to go on the website and read Sean's story. I actually get to drop off a copy of the East Nashvilleian to him tomorrow because
Oh, that's
his
so
his
cool.
picture made it in it. I'm pretty excited about it. But
So good.
yeah, there's so many more people involved in it than you think, and I wanted to let people know that it refers to an entire cross section of humanity. And not
Yeah.
only that cross section, but the not just the people in the high risk category, but the people that love them. So
Exactly.
I've had several people reach out and say, I'm not high risk, but my brother is, or my sister, or my mother, or it's not just the high risk that this speaks for or to, it's everybody that cares for
Yeah.
them.
Yeah. And I mean, to massively personalize it,
Yeah,
I
do
mean,
it.
my parents are in the category of they have a high risk
Hmm.
son. Also, my cousin is one of their favorite people in the world,
Yeah.
yet they still aren't taking the precautions that are needed. So that was another point of me sharing the high risk humans was like, hey, this entails to you,
Yeah.
you know, like I'm one of them there,
Yeah.
mom and dad,
Did they,
you know.
if I could ask, did they have a response for it?
No.
They largely don't. It's
Yeah.
like I said, I wanted to speak to the people that would say sacrifice the weak, but I think it's done infinitely more good for the high risk and those who love them.
Yeah. Yeah. So I mean, that's my story,
Hmm.
but it has reached out to people that are in my friend group
Yeah.
or people that come from that part of the world that are seeing it and seeing the value in it. So again, super
Thank
awesome
you.
that you're doing
Yeah.
that.
Knock
Um,
on wood, I haven't gotten too much hate mail yet, so that's cool.
well, you know what?
Screw the haters. It's all right.
Exactly. Yeah, I'm with you on that one. All right, I have two more
Yeah, man.
questions for you. Um, and I ask everybody these because I'd love to hear this as well. Um, what would you want the world to know about you?
There's the we were talking earlier about the Channel 5 segment, and in that segment, one of the lines that Jason Lamb, the reporter, wrote was armed with only her camera and her compassion, set forth with this series. And I I think I read that or heard it, and I just started crying. I was like, that's it. That's all I want people to know, is that I have a camera. I'm an artist, and I have compassion. That's it. That's all you need to know about me.
I love that.
I,
I think that's
I,
brilliant. It's
yeah,
great. It's fantastic. As you said that, I was like, oh, dude, that's really
I
good.
know. It's like
That's
yeah,
perfect. That's like a battle cry. Like, I got my
exactly.
camera and I got my compassion and I'm coming
And
for
I'm
you.
gonna mess stuff up, man. Yeah,
Yeah.
all my heartfelt appreciation to Jason Lamb and Catherine Stewart for running that, or for putting together that Channel 5 story. It was beautiful. And that line from it, I'll cherish that forever. You can put that on my tombstone.
Right. That's like across just life. Just
Yeah,
like, I'll just keep that
that's
one.
it. It's
You just gave me my catchphrase,
yes,
yeah, that's so good.
yes. I'm a big fan of that line.
Perfect. I love it. I love it. I love it. And then if you had the ear of everybody in the world, what would you say to them?
Sorry, I really wanted to say that's what she said joke. I want everyone to know that I make so many that's what she said jokes. If I had the if I had the ear of everybody in the world, I think I would just ask people to lead their actions with empathy. And it doesn't have to be in this grand scale of things. It could be small acts of kindness. It doesn't Everything resonates so fully right now because we're in a pandemic. Everything's locked down. We don't have anything to do. So the smallest acts of kindness and empathy can change the world. In no better words than that.
Yeah. Yep. I'm with you. I mean, small actions can lead to one person hearing them and then they tell one person and then one person
Yeah.
and then it grows, like the little ripple effect that goes out into the world
Yeah.
because of your kindness, your empathy, and your
Yeah.
compassion is brilliant.
Be excellent to each other, man. It's not that hard.
No, it's way easier. It's so much easier just to be chill and enjoy each
Yeah,
other.
for sure.
It's so much better. Well, I truly appreciate you coming and chatting with me. This has been so much fun. I've truly enjoyed hanging out with you and hearing about your story and the high risk humans and just the love that you're putting into that. And the two things that we talked about mostly in this were your camera and your compassion. So it
Yeah.
works.
Woo! All I can ask for. Well, thanks so much for having me, man. I really appreciate you, and what you're doing with your podcast is just as beautiful. Just listening to people's stories. It's a beautiful thing to
I
do right
appreciate
now.
that.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's so much fun. I truly get enriched every time I get to have a conversation, and then whoever gets to hear it, I hope it does the same thing, just goes out into the world and spreads some love and kindness around,
It's just a little sprinkling of love and kindness. That's all we can do.
Yeah. Yep. All right. Well, I hope you have a beautiful rest of your day.
Yeah, man.
And hopefully at some point when we're not crazy lockdown, we could actually meet up in real life.
Yeah, dude. I am looking forward to that. I want to have a high risk barbecue.
That would be awesome.
Right? In like the fall or something
So
like that.
rad.
Just get everybody together that I've interviewed and just be like, hey, here you go. Check out all your beautiful faces in person.
Oh, that's a brilliant
Right.
idea. I fully support that. I would love to be a
You're
part of that.
definitely I'll send you the invite as soon as I have them put together.
Sweet. All right. I will see you
All
later.
All right. Thanks, Nick. Cheers.
Yeah.
Thank you for listening to the Beautifully Human podcast. To hear more beautiful stories from beautiful humans, follow us on Spotify and rate and subscribe to us on Apple Podcasts. Follow us on Instagram at Wanderlust Moon Duo. Peace signs up.